Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest show, Segue Sunday number 19, the psychic energy ribbon of our lives. One of the more intriguing things that I actually discovered while doing many things in the astral as well as looking at people is that we leave a trail behind us, which is rather intriguing. If you want to use a metaphor from movies or TV, the closest thing I could give you is, say, the light cycles in Tron, but not quite so solid and you can't run into them, etc. Another one is when people talk about a silver cord. There is no silver cord tying you to your body, but behind you trails an energy ribbon. And it's part of your aura, almost as if it's marking where you've been. Sort of like a trail of air. And as it gets pulled tighter and tighter, it grows smaller and smaller and smaller. But the ribbon still leaves energy behind. And one of the intriguing things I found about that energy ribbon is that things can follow it and can trail to you. So when people say, oh, I got an attachment because I went somewhere, usually it's not that. Usually it's not that you brushed up against something or that something became interested in you because it saw you in a place. They can literally follow you home through this trail, sort of like a dog following a scent home. And it's a much longer lasting thing. So when we tell you to be careful where you're going, usually it's because of this. Now, I was supposed to have several people on today, but I think they forgot that it's spring forward. So I'm going to be alone today because I think I was the only person who remembered to turn my clock forward aside from Scarcity up there. Hello, Scarcity. How's everything going? So I'm going to do my best to try and keep this one-man show on the air. Also, I want everybody to remember, Montana Ranch Emu is our first sponsor. They are an amazing product. They are beyond belief great. Wonderful.
This is not Aisha. I mean, this is not Montana. This is Aisha.
Hi, Aisha. I'm just talking
Hi.
about our product real quick. I have to plug it. So,
Okay.
So Montana Ranch Emu is a fantastic line of products, which is based on emu oil, which is the most bioavailable source of all essential fatty acids in one source that you can get. Now, you hear everybody talking about omega-3, omega-3, omega-3. Yes, omega-3s are fantastic. In fact, they're absolutely essential, and they're part of the makeup of the emu oil. And they're great for your brain as well as for your heart. Taking emu oil internally and putting it on your skin is incredible. In fact, it's a carrier agent for a lot of other things, whether you're using CBD oil or you're using, I don't know, like a product in order to warm your skin to help with irritation. Emu oil, I've actually seen put a stopper in a psoriasis and eczema. In fact, the youngest person I'd ever seen it help was a 4-year-old that had terrible eczema. But in one summer, we were able to put it on the run and fix it. Now, the best part about taking the capsules is that you don't have to worry about burping fish. The reason why we do that in the United States is because they molecularly distill the fish oils because they're afraid of supposedly mercury, even though the fish don't contain mercury. But it's a requirement by law, and the molecular distillation is so hot that the oils themselves become damaged and unviable. But with emu oil, there's no such thing, no requirement at all. If I could show you the pictures and not get banned of my son's left hand when he gave himself a 2nd-degree burn on a barbecue, I would. But you're going to have to trust me on this one. There is nothing like the stuff. Whether it's just moisturizing your skin, or let's say you're aging now and your skin is beginning to easily bruise, or you're taking, at a doctor's request, Coumadin or warfarin. Taking the capsules internally reverses the damage that those pills take. And it's a fantastic thing to be able to reinvigorate your skin, because your skin is the indication of how much damage you have. According to people who know me and see me up close, I still look like I'm in my 30s, even though I'm actually approaching 50. And so I would highly recommend, if I can maintain my age and keep looking good, as well as stay active and fit, that this is something that you should work into your plan as well. There's an entire line of supplements as well that comes from Montana Emu Ranch, from vitamins to meal supplements to enzymes to help you break down your foods. There's nothing quite like it. And for sore muscles, there are products that are designed to help you with spastic muscles, deep muscle ache, injuries, wounds. I actually slashed my leg open in August of last year, a 6-inch gash from my ankle all the way up my calf, and I was able to heal it without stitches. So I would highly recommend it. There's a coupon code that is specific to the channel, SG206. You get 10% off your first order. All you got to do is create the account, place your order, put the code in, and bam, 10% comes off right away. Hi, Aisha.
How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I think you and I are the only people who remember to do the spring forward thing. I did tell everybody last week that the show was going to be at 11 this week because of it, because we had to get an earlier start, but I don't think anybody remembered. People are probably still dozing. So the point of the show today is about the energy ribbon that we leave behind us. The energy ribbon also will feed other beneficial things and things that are that like you. And it is a source of energy that's a passive energy that you give to your environment and to other things and beings in the area that are amenable to you. It does have some side effects. There are things that will use it as a means to try and get to you and are unscrupulous. So I don't know how to stop them from feeding, but it is an important thing to note, which is one of the reasons why Diane wanted us to do the show today. It was something that we'd been discussing. So, one of the things that I had noticed when people are dealing with their new gifts is they don't realize how tantalizing they can be, because as they move anywhere, especially when you're younger, they tend to run around and cast their energy ribbon in all kinds of places. And it leads things to them that they didn't realize could follow. And so that's why you find a lot of children tend to be like that. They tend to have been, that are gifted, tend to be followed more often than not because of their vibrant energy ribbon. And there are talents, I will say, that allow you to be able to cut the ribbon off and let it die behind you so that it's not something that can be followed to you. Joel and I discovered this way back in the 90s, that it's possible to break the pathing behind us, but still leave the path ahead, which is one of the things in thaumaturgy that's called the golden path, that you're doing what you're supposed to do and you're following the proper traits and doing what you're supposed to for the world at large, but you're cutting off the means of being able to be trailed behind you. Now, as good as he is at hiding, that was something he's never mastered. And so he tends to be followed, and he realizes that because he's a shaman, he leaves it open, and as do many other psychics, in order to be followed, because things are sometimes looking for help. Now, Joel is one of those people who's strong enough that if the thing isn't actually looking for help, if it's actually looking for a free meal, he can bust him in the chops, and that ends right there. So I have faith in his abilities.
Okay.
It's the truth.
You said earlier when you first started, I heard you saying that these things don't follow you home like a just because you went somewhere. Isn't that what happened to me when you said it was because I went across the street to pick those figs off that tree that the guy realized I was living in his house across the street and followed me over there?
It's because your energy ribbon went up to the fig tree and he was able to follow it back. Because have you ever seen the movie Tron?
No.
Okay, well, there's this the movie Tron. There are these things called light cycles, and the cycles, as they move, they leave what's called a jet wall behind them, which is essentially like the ribbon, and it stays solid as long as the motorcycle, the light cycle, stays alive, and that is how they follow you. Is that energy ribbon, that flavor, that that sense of you, because it carries some of you behind you, and they're able to follow it back. He didn't visibly watch you do it. He was able to see that you'd done it because the ribbon of your life went up to the tree, took some of the figs down, and came back, and he was able to go, ah, I could follow this back right to her.
So the movie Tron, spell it Tron?
Yes.
Is that okay?
There's two of them now.
I'm trying to look for it
the
online.
First one was an awesome movie from the 1980s. Lawrence Kasdan was the director, I believe. Second one, Disney made, also amazing movie. Also has light cycles in it. Give you a fantastic example.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. Hi, Pammy Rogers. Thank you for joining us. Let's see. Scarcity says, I have a question. I exited out of my body into my room one night and was completely aware of everything that was happening when I did, but yet I started fading out and losing awareness despite the fact that I had 100% awareness that I was out of body. Then everything went black and I became unconscious for the rest of the night. Yeah, that can happen the first few times that you leave your body, because you may end up losing all of your energy because you don't know how to maintain it. And the reason why I say that is because the first time you jump into water and you swim around can sometimes be exhausting. In the case of when you go astral, your ability to store energy becomes completely different. You actually can't rely on your body, so you have to rely on being able to get it from the universe, as it were. Think of it as you're holding your breath and you suddenly get exposed to vacuum, and all your air wants to get forced out of your body. Now, this is a bad example because no matter what, you're going to die in a vacuum. So don't quote me on this one. This is just a metaphor. So all of a sudden, your energy just runs away, and then you'll go unconscious, and your natural gravitation will be to go back into your body. The first, I think, 3 times I went astral that way, that's exactly what happened. I just lost consciousness because my brain was too tired, and my energy level just dropped, and poof, I'm dreaming. Practice.
Did she do that on purpose, or she just got out of her body by mistake? Did she knows what she's doing when she did that, or what?
No, he says he knew what he was doing, but it's going to be practice.
Oh, that was a guy. Okay, yeah, sorry about that.
Just keep doing it repeatedly. All you got to do is the more the times that you do it, the more that you get used to the shift in the way that your body uses energy. I wish I could say that it was a bigger trick than that, but most of the time, anybody wants to say, "Oh, you must do this and wave your hands and you must link to the energy, the eternal energy of the universe, or God will punish you." And no, it's just practice. It becomes simpler as you realize how you're shifting the way that you move. It's sort of like changing gears on a bicycle. The more that you do it, the more effective you can be in being able to get around. And that's simple. There's nothing more to it than just getting used to it and learning how to do it from the ground up. I know it's kind of boring. I wish there was some kind of major trick to it, but there really isn't. Anybody who wants to try and make it sound like it's mysterious and gigantic of a trouble or a trick is usually trying to sell you something. And I don't go with that. Some of the people on this channel, when they hear these really weird videos about people saying, "Oh, you must do this and you must do that," and we're all staring at each other like, "Do you do that? No, you don't. No, we don't do any of those things." The closest thing we do to any of those things is we actually know how to maintain our energy source, and that's just because we have a more sustained connection to not only the universe but ourselves. Really, I'm flattered because I've actually listened to some of these shows where people try to make out some of this stuff to be way more difficult than it is, and it just blows my mind because I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm really good at this. I'm just trying to make people understand that once you get from A to B, C is the next natural thing to happen, and it just takes practice going between A and B before C happens, and then C to D happens, and then D to E, and then anybody who wants to say that it's impossible usually has told themselves that, and that is the sticking point. It's when you tell yourself this cannot be so that it is not so. I want to give you an example of that in my life. I was told that that everything I'm doing is evil, that it's a gift from the devil, that I should repent and go to church and grovel before the whoever's there and say that I'm sorry, I'm doing this stuff, and then I've let the devil into my life type garbage, and then I'm hurting people. And I have to explain something. I can't hurt anybody. It's literally not in me to do. I was told, oh, well, you know, this is dangerous. And I tried one time. I tried very hard to use my abilities to hurt somebody to see, you know, if you're telling them, let me, and right as I'm about to do it, I deflate. I have no ability to maintain that. Just all of a sudden I can't do it because it's not in me. If it was in me to do that, I don't think I would have been given these abilities. I haven't. Now, on the other hand, to help people, oh yeah, even to the detriment of myself. I've actually, the most recent major event that we had, I burned the living daylights out of my hand on a pipe that we had to close down. I actually had to do several tricks in order to be able to give enough energy into the situation to break this thing down. And it burnt my fingers pretty bad. It took nearly 2 weeks before the spot didn't hurt anymore. And all I was doing was making sure that this thing couldn't negatively affect people in the area anymore. I'd been helping people that lived near this lake for probably the last 3 or so years since I had my eye surgery. And it's a common thing that this lake causes problems to local livestock, wild animals, people. It's amazing. And the number of meth heads that it attracts is outrageous. So if I'm doing the devil's business, somebody's going to have to show this to me, because even in the Bible, it says, Satan cannot cast out Satan. A nation divided against itself cannot stand, even if it is the nation of hell. So yeah, it's one of those things. I was told that it was that I have to grovel, and yet if I spend all my time doing that, how am I going to help anybody? So practice is the best way to get to wherever it is that you got to go, no matter what it is you're trying to learn. And the only limitations are the ones that we put on ourselves, including my own inner light. I couldn't hurt anybody no matter how hard I try. So back to the ribbon. Pardon me. So this ribbon, it goes before us as well. It's almost as if it's trying to lead us like a trail along a path that our lives should follow. It's more than just one through space, but one through also time, events, trusting to the fact that it's there already and we're following it. And I don't mean this predestination, by the way. This has nothing to do with predestination. It has to do with, this is the best path for us. If we derail ourselves and drag the ribbon along other paths, it can cause detrimental effects in our lives, because we're basically trying to make the train run where the rails don't go. And that's a discussion for another day. But the psychic ribbon, the energy ribbon that we pass behind us, is so energetic that it can allow people who are well versed in how it moves and how it works to be able to cast their minds back to times that they don't remember as children in order to see things. When I was in Wales and as a kid, there was an event that was so traumatic that I wasn't able to remember it for, oh God, I think it wasn't until after Christmas of 1977 when I turned 6. And it wasn't until into spring, because I'd had terrifying dreams about what had occurred. And I was able to finally unlock the memories by asking people about what had happened on a 3-day span when I didn't remember what had occurred. This is when the creature in Wales attacked me, and was able to follow the energy ribbon back to that moment, and it unlocked the memories in my head. This isn't a dream, by the way. This was when it finally unlocked and I was able to remember everything, because my brain had PTSD locked it away. It was because I had followed the energy ribbon back through my life to that moment. And it was like reliving the whole thing all over again. It was a frightening shocker. I was in my bedroom in Lenox, and I think I was sitting in front of my desk on the floor. This is before my dad put the carpeting in, and we had tile floors, ridiculous for a bedroom, tile floor in a bedroom. And I think I was playing with some of my Star Wars action figures when all of a sudden it broke open, and I remembered it because I was thinking about Luke using the Force, and then the next thing I know, I'm just remembering the whole thing, and I quickly ran to the restroom, but it was too late. I basically peed my pants again. It was a terrible situation, horrible memory to come to the surface while I was playing. And my mother shouted at me because she thought I had ignored my need to use the restroom until I peed myself, which doesn't normally happen. Not when I was a kid. Peeing the bed because I was too scared to get out of bed, that did happen. That was because of all the things I could see. But that's what the energy ribbon allows, at least going backwards. And when you hear about people trying to read their lives going forward, it's also following the energy ribbon's future and forward trail. So I used to do that for myself until I realized that constantly looking forward into your own future causes your own future to become fragmented, because you're trying to read something that you aren't there yet, and you're trying to see which would be the best direction to go on information you don't yet have, by trying to get it before you have it when you don't even have it in the future. And the more that you do that, the less capable you are of being able to have a direct effect on your own future, because you're trying to get information passively that you have to actively go after in your life. It's hard to explain it, but I think the guy who wrote Dune described it best in that you cannot be in both locations at once, the future and the past, or I should say the future and the present, and be able to fully affect it. You have to be a participant in your life. So I gave up on trying to figure out what the best way to live my life was by looking forward through the ribbon, instead by simply living it and watching other people around me. It's an easier way to read other people's lives. If their lives are better because they know you, then you're doing something right, and you know to keep going. It's almost like keeping track of your activity level by watching others around you and seeing if they thrive. So
when people do that astral projection thing, like get out of their body while they're asleep at night, does their body still get enough sleep to actually go on during the day without being tired, or do they actually be tired because their spirit was up all night and not sleeping with the body?
from my personal experience, I'm usually exhausted. That's the reason why Joel and I figured out how to stop it, so that we didn't so that we could actually get some sleep, staying basically mostly conscious. Because when you're you either fall asleep while you're astrally projecting, and then you're just sort of moving around, and your body and your soul are disconnected temporarily, and you don't really get a whole lot of sleep, or you're asleep in your body and you're out, but you never quite get to totally asleep while you're actually projecting. It can seem like you've lost consciousness, but for the most part, you're just unaware, and your brain is throwing or what they call altered state information at you to try and explain why you're not in your body. And that's why you can actually see things in the astral that normally you wouldn't see there, including dream state stuff. It's like those guys who go into those what are they called? Isolation chambers, where they float. And after about an hour floating in there, the brain assumes that they're unconscious and starts throwing all kinds of images at them to fill in the blanks for what they're not receiving. So it's fairly similar.
When you say float, you're talking about like those people who practice to go up in space in that big old air thing.
No.
Put them up in the air type float, or what?
No, there's these what are they called? There was a movie called Altered States with John Hurt in it, where they float in a chamber that's filled with water, and it's completely dark. I've forgotten what they're called, but if you stay in there long enough, the brain starts to fill in like you're dreaming while awake, and will throw all kinds of weird images your way to try and fill in the blanks for the fact that you're isolated. You can't see anything. You can't hear anything. You can't smell anything. You can't touch anything. And you just start to dream.
Okay.
And that's similar to it. Yeah, sensory deprivation chamber. That's correct. Yeah, sensory deprivation chambers are like that. And you can end up doing that to yourself in the astral and seeing things that just aren't there in the astral. Projecting dream states around you, which is kind of scary because it's almost like dream walking in the astral space. You don't really know what's there until it hits you. And then when it hits you, it's a bit too late to do anything about it. And so Joel and I learned how to not go walkabout like that, because it is a bad idea to be mostly unconscious and dreaming in an astral state. You never know if you're going to actually come walking back. Normally speaking, your body's, your souls will gravitate back to your body. Even while you're asleep, it tends to not go too far from the body. But if you do start to go far from your body, there's no way to keep yourself from going, past where you should stop. Waking you up is slightly more difficult. And when you wake up, it's ridiculous. You're ridiculously groggy. It can be sometimes almost muscle sore fatigue. And the longer that you're out, the less energy your body is able to maintain for itself. And I've been out 8 hours, 10 hours, having long trips. And when I get back, every muscle in my body ached like I'd been exercising all night. And we're talking on a brand new mattress and box spring, some of the best that was available at the time, and I'm still dead exhausted. So it's definitely not a great thing to get too far from your body.
Is that what he's talking about when he say he have to hit the Astro Gym, the one, one in the chat section? That's, he feels like he's been working out.
No, he knows he needs to go and practice getting in and out of his body. That's what I was saying. He has to go practice. Practice is the only way to get to make sure everything works well. Time can actually be pretty subjective in the astral. It's one of those things I'd noticed. If you want a great example of how subjective and weird it can be, the creature that I fought in Wales and that followed me to Idaho, when we had our last fight, our very last fight, and it decided it wanted me, dead. It yanked me out of my body, and I didn't even realize that it had done it until almost what felt like 2 minutes later, because it stabbed me through my right shoulder, then through my left shoulder, then through the right side of my chest, and then it grabbed me right below my navel, and then yanked really hard. And I'm floating free and feeling like I'm underwater. And it felt like I was hanging there for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, all subjective. And then I heard this sound like a side of beef being thrown to the ground. And I looked back, and my body had just hit the ground and was still tumbling. And there was blood gushing out of my sinuses. My eyes were wide open and staring up at the night sky. So it's pretty funny, because that's like if you watch Doctor Strange, when he leaves his body and it's just like sort of back and hanging back. It takes forever for the body to fall. That's about what it's like. But there's other times when time on the astral can move at the same pace, and it doesn't seem to have any slowdown. And I'm not sure why that is. I guess it all depends on what you're doing, how high of an energy state you're at, if you're excited, if you're relaxed, if you're just experiencing. But I was in combat, so take that with a grain of salt, because in combat, even because I've done martial arts for ages, when I'm in combat, everybody else slows down anyway. So I don't know if that's adrenaline, if it's discipline. I don't have a real answer for that. Not at all.
I noticed that also. When you actually learn martial arts and you're fighting someone, for some reason it seems like they're taking longer, slower for them to actually react to what you've just done to them. So it gives you enough time to hit them like 3 times before they hit you once, you know. So that's the way it was when I learned it when I was a child. And that's the way it was when I was able to beat up all those guys who were trying to get at me when I was younger. Even grown men, I was looking at them like, when are you going to hit me? You know, when are you going to hit me back? You know, I had time to even look at them before I actually hit the next move and just hit him right there in the throat somewhere. And they just choking. And I'm like, you didn't see that coming? You know, I took a while before I even, you know, land the punch, and you still wasn't ready. So I don't know what that is about, but it just seems like time slows down when you're fighting after you've learned martial arts.
And it's the same thing on the astral plane. So I don't know if it's directly related. It might be a gifted thing, because the only people I hear about that talk about that sort of thing are gifted folk. That's it. Joel talks about it. I've listened to people who go into like competition and stuff. Oh, well, everybody does seem to be a little bit slower. It's like, no, you don't understand. I mean, we're talking like you guys stop dead. It's almost like every last one of y'all is like fighting through like quicksand, and I can move around you like Spider-Man, and I'm watching what you're doing. It's like going, yeah, when are you going to throw that punch? But I'm thinking it's probably a gifted thing, because you hear about folks who are physically gifted with their extra special, I'm not going to say Bruce Lee, because he didn't actually have gifts like that. He was just well trained. But people who are metaphysically capable and physically trained to do martial arts, and I watch them, and the ribbon that passes around them is usually gold, which is not normal, and their abilities are insanely fast, because it's almost like what they're doing is slipping time. So take that for what it is. A big question mark. So he says, so Scarcity says, do you think your soul charges your body when you sleep to keep yourself inside? I think that when you're asleep, everything goes back to a more healed and prepared state, which is why sleep is so important. Because when you get exhausted, meditating, staying in the moment, keeping focused on your body and your presence within it is the way to get yourself realigning your chakras and getting all of the negativity flushed out is the best way to get back to, I would guess you'd say, physically and spiritually normal. Okay. Got a couple of messages here from people. Okay. So yeah, people have slept in. That's why that we have people who missed the show. They're like, we'll just schedule it for next week. Well, we'll schedule a different show for next week. I want to get this one out there. So yeah, one of the biggest fights I'd ever been in, I was surprised at how slow everybody was moving as soon as I started moving in amongst them. And it was really painful to watch most of them, because it's like playing with kids who just they don't know the rules of the game. It's almost like you're the adult in the room, and they just don't know what they're doing. And it's one part funny, one part exhilarating, 2 parts what in the heck is going on?
Aggravating.
So it's quite funny too, because at the end of it, you're the one who's standing there going, damn, my knuckles are killing me, and they're all on the ground, and you're like, damn, why all these idiots smile when you punch them? And so if you got any questions, people in the audience, throw them at me now, because we're done with the ribbon talk. Oh, so did you ever, according to Deb, you have 2 other guides. Have you tried to contact either of them?
No, not yet.
It's interesting. I definitely would like to know, because I'm not even supposed to be able to talk to Jemima. That's supposed to be a Joel thing. But I feel very lucky, because she was, when I first encountered her, and Frenchie didn't want me to talk to her. Yeah, I keep telling people, that was really rude. It's like, no, dude, I'm looking for this person who's been protecting this family, and you're interrupting. I say, how is that good manners? And he's telling me, unhand him. Unhand him. Are you kidding me? Unhand him. Oh, Mike Tyson, from all the things that I've been learning about from him, he was watching and learning about people who were good fighters, because though he was small, he learned how to throw every ounce of muscle behind every hit, like Bruce Lee did with his 1-inch punch, which is why when he would hit, he was so devastating, because every ounce of his muscle was behind everything that he was throwing. It was really great until he got too full of his own brand, which was unfortunate.
Yeah.
I feel badly for him because he definitely went off the rails and into the thicket. But I was watching a show on how he learned how to do all those devastating punches he learned how to do and how fast he was with them. It was incredible. It was almost like he was able to control his body from the outside and the inside at the same time, to be able to derive the most out of each and every blow he threw. So back to Jemima. So has she shown you how to do any more cooking? Because I'm pretty sure she was trying to egg Joel on to learning how to cook sweet potatoes in all these different ways. And he said he wanted to learn them all, but then he got distracted like Joel normally does, because he's making I don't know, a new batch of some kind of wine or whatever.
No, I haven't. I haven't actually practiced to try and get my chakras all the way open to be able to talk to her yet. I'm still in the process of cleaning up my house, so I got like 2 more rooms I want to do some spring cleaning to. Then I'll be ready to get back to taking care of me. And I want to be able to do all that. I want to do what you said, go around the house with the colloidal silver to protect the house, and then protect myself and get into my chakra training and stuff like that.
Especially so you're in New Orleans, where that little girl is a commonality, the one with sending the goat after you.
Mm.
That's kind of scary.
She moved out the neighborhood though, so I haven't seen her.
Well, that's a good thing too, but God only knows if there's another one around the next corner, you know?
Yeah.
It always seems like we've got more and more always on our plate because of what we are. Like today, I was middle of the night, I got an email from a lady who's saying she's dealing with her gifts and issues that she's having, because apparently these things are lying to her and telling her that she was that they are people that she knew, helping her to open her gifts, and that's always a scary thing. Getting the wrong kind of, getting somebody who steps in front of the guides that you're meant to have and tries to control your path to your abilities. And that's not always a good thing. It's usually a worry for some people, but some get lulled into complacency, and they don't realize that something like that is possible. I think that's the reason why I avoided any external interaction, so I'd learn my abilities all on my own, because for fear of any chance of anything trying to make me go off the rails. Hello, Josie. If you got any questions, now's the question portion of the show, so you can ask any questions you like. It is actually a thing to have to worry about things trying to change the direction that you're going to be using your gifts, getting in the way, interfering, screwing things up. That is probably the second most common thing you hear. Either something comes in and starts using your gifts without your permission, or they want to feed off of them so that they can get stronger and be able to improve their presence. And that's always a bad thing. Always. Nothing that's beneficial to you is really going to need to feed energy off of you. Like when my grandfather comes in for visits to look around and make sure everything's okay, he doesn't feed off of my energy. He doesn't have to. Things that have gone on and moved to beyond and then returned to visit don't need to have an energy trail or to suck you dry of energy or for you to induce them to come back. That's one of the things that you can tell a fake medium will tell you. It's like, oh, I have to expend all this energy. They really don't. When we had Deb Varner on the show, she never indicated any point in time that it was exhausting to do this, or she had so much work she had to do, or it was so hard. It really isn't. If it is exhausting, then something is doing something that you really ought to be doing, which comes back to the whole idea of, what are you doing with that Ouija board? And I can't stress that one enough. I've been told, well, but it's just a medium like any other. Not really. It's a much more open channel thing, and you don't know what's going to come through. And oftentimes the things that are coming through, you're giving it tacit permission to take your energy, to use you, to Zach Bagans your idiocy. You don't want to do that. The reason now why I tell people that would say to anyone, watch Ghost Adventures, is like Milton Berle said, these boys are fantastic at being good examples of a bad example. That's truthfully what they are. It's like, here, you want to know what to do? Look at this show, see what they're doing. Don't do any of it, ever. 2 Octobers ago, well, is it 2? Yeah, 2 Octobers ago, we did a special show on their Halloween special, and on things that we're recommending that they not do for 2018. And apparently, what we're saying don't do are ratings grabbers. They are the way that ratings go up for this show now. So I'm guessing that people don't really want just the evidence. They want the screams, the chills, the thrills, the potential harm. I think it was 2 shows back, they were in what they call a haunted house in Nevada. And it's not really a haunted house so much as it's a place where you can go and people can show you things that are scary images, frightful situations. And the 2 buildings that they have, one stored up nothing but fear. I mean, the whole place was just riddled with fear. They go in there, and my head was killing me from the sheer amount of other people's fears that were stored in this building. Sort of like the ribbon of energy that trails behind you, it can leave that stored energy as well as that stored emotion. And the instant you go in there, terror is it. But the second building was a bit more malignant, because the energy that was in there was based off of torture, not jump scares, frights. No, these people go in there and they're allowed to be hurt. So the energy that was there was quasi-sentient. And anything that you could think of that would scare you, if your id was scared of something, it could make it manifest in that building. And sure enough, Aaron, because he was afraid that this one animatronic was suddenly going to move, it moved. It had nothing to do. It was actually completely dismantled. There was nothing that would set it off. It had no electricity going to it, but it moved. And Aaron went running out of there. His own id, his own brain, caused the problem, because it was what he was afraid of. And when you're in that much lambent energy, it set it off. And so he ends up running out of there. Now imagine if he had gone running, he's in the dark, and he didn't have enough perception of where he was, that he ran into something like a pole head first at full sprint. You can run at more than 15 miles an hour. And if you run is scared, 20 plus is possible. Now imagine a car doing 20, 25 miles an hour, and you've got your face down right where it can hit you. Bam! And it hits you in the head. That's the same thing as running headlong into a metal pipe. This whole building was filled with this kind of thing. He could have struck himself dead. So I don't appreciate that these boys don't have the experience or someone around to help them. And they just talk to themselves about as if they can talk something from not affecting them, not realizing that there's nothing there. There's no demons there. They're saying, oh, there's a demon. There's just no demon in this place. They have simply just they've just exposed themselves to a stored ribbon of energy that has been left in this place and acts like a scar, just like any trauma, just like, and it creates a background count. When we talk about a background count, it's the residual ribbon of other people's presence and energy and environment left in a place. You have a direct correlation to the environment you pass through, and the state of your mind and the state of your being gets stored in that place. And that's what that show was all about. People going to bathe in the energy that was left behind of other people in these strange and terrible states. Okay, so let's see. If someone has been at my house for a few minutes and then left and went somewhere else, would I be able to trace their energy signature and locate them? If you're particularly skilled, yes, you should be able to. I have never developed that talent, but there are people who have, and I have known a few people who said that for them it was not difficult. I guess you'd call that psychically bloodhounding them. The closest thing I ever got to that was knowing when my mother or my brother were going to go to a Red Cross emergency, and they needed me to come home. It was almost like tugging on the ribbon because they knew they needed me back, and they didn't know that I was aware of my the energy state I'd left behind me, and so it would send messages to me. Years later, I can actually focus on my mother because I lived in the house where she's living now for 22, 23 years, and can actually listen in on her, talking to herself, talking to her cats. I try not to do that, but I will check up on her often because she's, late 70s and not in the best of health.
That's an ability everybody needs to practice and get a hold of for these elders, because a lot of them leave the elders in the homes and later on find out that they're in the house by themselves dead, and nobody went to check on them for months at a time before they actually find out. That is something people need to practice to get that ability so they can be able to check elders.
Being aware that the ribbon exists makes it a more tangible thing. And knowing that you're leaving energy and emotions, and that's the reason why Buddhists understand that since we help to create our environment, that you should do your best to meditate and leave the world filled with joy. I like meditation, but not the kind that everybody talks about where you're just focusing on just your breath. I prefer the nirvanist meditation because you're focusing on a time when you were ridiculously happy. And that fosters, maintains that energy, and then puts it into your environment as well as into yourself, and helps you to maintain a happier state. Who could really argue with the idea of making the world around you a happier place by simply being happy? And so focusing on happy memories while you're meditating, hugging someone, the first time you've seen them in a long time and you're so happy it brings tears to your eyes, or the time when you guys all were enjoying yourselves at Disneyland, or the big reunions because you haven't seen your family members for such a long time and you're so overjoyed to see them enjoying your latest cooking endeavor or whatever. Those things are things to hold on to and maintain that sensation while you're meditating. And it becomes intoxicating because it allows you to happily review even moments that are, even when people are long past, like my grandfather, and really enjoy those happy moments, and relive them and relive them and relive them, and fill your environment with this good energy that negative things really hate the taste of. It's probably the best defense for this. Joel, the reason why he doesn't worry so much about these negative things following into the house is they usually don't follow him in. They'll stay outside because there's a lot of happy in the house, and just out the back door of the house too, because he's all about the cooking. And that's why he really wants to talk tons to Jemima. He wants to find out some new recipes because he's so He's such a sensualist. He loves taste. He loves experiences. He loves, it's amazing. And that's why he'll actually go and see movies that he really loves 2, 3, 4, 5 times. I think I lost track of how many times he went to see Black Panther. He'd be telling me, he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna go see Black Panther. It's like, damn, dude, didn't you see this thing like 2 times already? He said, no, 4. So Joel Ramsey. Yeah, well, like Gordon Ramsay. You know, I'm not supposed to say this, but I was actually on Gordon Ramsay's show with my wife. We actually got to see the Hell's Kitchen from the inside. The food that they made was amazing. It was really good. We only got to go through 2 courses of the 3. I wanted to taste the dessert really bad, but the 2 that we got were absolutely incredible. But Joel would have killed to be there. I'm telling you, he probably would have been just oohing and awing over the flavor of it. It was incredible. So if anybody's got any other questions, we're down to the last few minutes. Oh gosh, I can't wait to actually be able to play the music that Sephora made for the show. It's really something to listen to. And Joel, of course, couldn't be on the show today because he's got to work this evening. I had a feeling that he wasn't going to be able to. He told me that he didn't know his schedule about a week ago, and I figured, well, it's okay, no worries. And I can actually feel that he's shoulder deep, pushed into his pillows right now and unconscious. He's definitely snoring hard, or as he would say, sawing logs. I guess that's a Missouri thing.
You mentioned that today we were supposed to fix out clocks or something.
Well, for most of the U.S., it's spring forward. It's the end of daylight savings.
So it's supposed to be, well, to me, on my computer it says 1:51. On my cell phone it says 12:51. Which one is supposed to be the right one? The 12 or the 1 o'clock?
1:51
is going on. The 1:51. Okay, so I got to fix my my cell phones. I thought my cell phones are automatically supposed to go to the right time.
It's supposed to, but with some of the cell phone companies out there, they don't do it. The smaller ones, they don't automatically do it. Since the United States, I don't think every place has it. Like Arizona doesn't follow daylight savings at all, so they leave it up to you, I guess, to handle.
Okay.
I can't remember all the states that don't do it. California, we had it on the we voted to get rid of it, and the state council and the state senate are looking into whether it would cause danger. Of course, it wouldn't cause danger. It's ridiculous. But the whole idea is that, well, it'll be darker in the middle of winter if we do that and don't actually do the spring forward, fall back thing for the parts of Northern California, as if people couldn't adapt. California is a long state, so Northern California has it stays insanely dark if they were to do that for most of the day because they're up north, just like Washington, Oregon, and so it's almost like it's almost like a different state when you go up to Northern California. That's where Joel lives, up past Sacramento. And the further north you go, the more extreme the weather can be, as well as the shift in the daylight that we have. Southern California, not so much. I'm nominally in Southern California. I'm still in Los Angeles County, but I'm the farthest north portion of it. We're in what you'd call Midlands, California. Okay, let's see. So Pammy says, I had terrible experiences as a young girl with a very black negative shadow beings. The first time I woke up frozen and it was sitting on the edge of my bed. It was not a dream, as my parents told me. Okay. Something like that. Has that happened since, Pammy? That's something we should probably handle again, doing the shadow spirits, handling that as a subject again. Well, they might be evil or they might not. Shadow creatures, shadow beings, sometimes are negative, sometimes aren't. Sometimes they're actually the cast off of people who've had, oh wow, this is, yeah, we're definitely gonna, I'm gonna do this one next week. We're gonna do shadow people next week. But just to give you an idea, Joel became a shadow person while he's still alive. He had been told to cast off his abilities because they were evil, and they left him and continued to exist as a being separate from himself, doing all kinds of crazy things because it was upset that it didn't have its connection to Joel anymore. About 2 years ago, we were able to reintegrate him. People who use heavy drugs can shatter themselves. Think of like Voldemort with his Horcrux. And parts of themselves can be shattered off and will walk around as shadow beings. And sometimes people who have had really traumatic experiences, the good portion of themselves can shatter off while the other portion stays within the body. And they appear as shadows because they're just an imprint of their previous lives. And they seek to do good. So it's not always good. It's not always bad. And we've learned that one through not only consulting with other people and guides, but also with the fact that Joel and I have had to deal with shadow people before, and sometimes they were actually there to protect people. And it was like it was the only part of the person that was concerned about these other people to be able to help. It was almost like a terrible anxiety within them caused the shadow person to break off to constantly go over and protect this person that they're anxious about. So it's not really that I'm giving you an explanation as to what they are, because as many as there are out there, there's got to be reasons for their sudden existence. Evil would be by what they're doing to you. If they hurt you, if they made you see things, if they menaced you, if they held you down. Catch you later, Scarcity. If you don't know what's if you don't know what they're doing. And I'm not going to say that the ones that came to you weren't evil or terrible, just don't know without more of an explanation as to what they were doing. But being able to drive them off, depending on their energy and how strong they are, would require an expert such as Joel or Diane or even Sephora and Dawn to get rid of them. So you haven't seen him as an adult. Yeah. Some things only appear to you when you're a child because that's maybe the limit of their energy to be able to come to you, manifest, or menace you as well. It's all a big question mark. There's so many variables you have to tack down before you can get to an answer. I wish it was cut and dried, like, oh, they're the bad guy because, and then go get them. But it's not always that way. In fact, a few of the shadow things that I'd come across were unfortunate and unwitting pawns being used by other more powerful entities. And though they needed to be moved on, they weren't the head honcho in control of the action. They were just being pushed and prodded to do what they were told. Sadly, there are bullies on the other side, and there are creatures that can make things do things that they don't want to do, and all because they don't want to face the repercussions that are possible for that they know that are coming if they stand in the middle of the road. So they have something else stand in the middle of the road and face the semi that's coming at them at 105 miles an hour. In any case, that's the show for today. If you like what you've seen here today, please like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, tell everybody you know. Yeah, we're definitely gonna get to that one next week, Pammy, for sure. Tell your friends. I will set it up next week at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're gonna do the show. It's gonna be about shadow people. I'm gonna have, I believe even Joel's gonna be here, so we're gonna have an ability to talk about this at length. So keep all your questions for then. I'm sorry if we'd gotten into it a little earlier, I would have definitely been able to tell you more. So if you like the show, like, comment, subscribe. Share with your friends. Tell everybody about it. We got a Facebook page as well. Go and click on it. You can actually submit any questions you may have to me there at Magic Oak Paranormal Investigation and Elimination. I know it's a mouthful, but it is definitely more descriptive of what we do than almost anything else I could put out there. I just want you to know, everybody, that I appreciate that you come here every week, that you bring your questions, your curiosity, and you let me help be your guide into a lot of this. And I'm humbled by it. I'm grateful to you all. I really do appreciate that you're letting me come into your homes and tell you all about how things I have seen and the wonders that I've experienced, and the good, both the glorious light and the forbidding dark that I've been through. I am very, very grateful that you've allowed me to be your guide this far, and I definitely appreciate all of you. And God bless you all until next time we meet. Thank you all and stay safe.